seen from Odell, and what I've seen from Odell is nothing like the reports indicate. So, sorry.
Coach, how does this relationship end?
Well, I asked when I came on set, which report are we talking about? Because there's so many reports that come out about Odell, it's hard to keep track of which report Freddie could be referencing. And typically when you get in an argument with someone, you say, well, okay, are we good? And they say, yeah, we're fine. That doesn't mean that you're really fine. That means that, yeah, things are okay. You probably have a working relationship. But what's Freddie supposed to say? There's nothing that he can say that's going to help him if he acknowledges that there may be conflict or there may be disagreements or he may have not been living up to the standard that they expected. He has nothing to gain from doing that. So he's got to get up on the podium every single week or every single day and say, yeah, things are good. We're moving in the right direction. He wants to be here. He believes in the system we have. He's fine with the trainers. Everything's good because you have no alternative when you stand up there besides to say that.
Odell's played every game this year, right? Correct?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see many highlights. I'm assuming he
okay, well, so he is having a less than productive season by his standards, agreed.
Well, I mean, relationship the last few years is pretty on par with
okay, well, I mean, yes, okay, sure. So yeah. 2 years ago he was injured. He broke his leg. We can hold that against him.
Last year?
Last year at 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns on a team whose quarterback is cooked, but we're not allowed to blame great quarterbacks on the show, only great wide receivers. So, but we can now do the formerly great quarterbacks, pardon me. So this year, you mentioned we don't see a lot of highlights. Have we seen these sideline blow-ups? Because when he was having all the highlights in the world, that was only part of the story because the sideline blow-ups were a big part of it. I haven't seen those. Has Odell said anything aside from, for the first time last week when he was asked about his future, and he seemed to openly ponder it? I don't know. I love it here. I love Jarvis. I'm happy. But no, tell me.
He had the watch incident. He had the shoe in. I mean, there were a couple things. He did not skate through the season without but a blemish.
Okay.
He had a few things where there are other players.
Has he had any fact other than?
I mean, he hasn't kicked a net. He hasn't kicked. You're right. He hasn't done that. He hasn't yelled at anybody lately.
All the things that we acted like were
we've got 3
criminal
games.
Cases, now we're acting like it doesn't matter. That's fine. So let me rephrase it. Other than fashion-related issues, has he been anything but a model citizen in Cleveland?
I don't know.
Tell me if I'm missing.
Look, I agree with you. He has not. I wouldn't use the word model citizen necessarily, but he hasn't had any issues on the sidelines. He hasn't blown up at coaches. He hasn't done interviews like he did with Lil Wayne, implying that I won out, that my quarterback's no good. I'll give you all that. But to your point, yeah, Watchgate, Shoegate, Visorgate, things like that.
Oh, okay.
Sure, there's 3 things.
But overall, I agree. Attitudinally, he's been fine.
But when you have a standard of a great receiver, you're expecting more. And I guess when you set the bar low enough, as long as you're not overtly disruptive, that's a win. And if that's the bar that you want, that's the bar that you want. So as long as you're not completely and utterly disruptive on the sideline, then it's all good.
No, but hold on. But what you guys are doing is setting a bar here for a team whose quarterback's ranked 33rd in the league in passer rating and saying you didn't clear it. The shoes, the Browns packed the wrong uniforms, and he and a teammate were wearing shoes that were not cleared with those uniforms.
Okay.
The visor, it is the responsibility of the officials before the game to tell you if you're in or out of protocol. They didn't. He then switched it. You guys want to flame him on the watch? Fine. I mean, the watch to me is such a non-issue. But we are, Coach, you said it, and you know how much I truly love you. But you said there are, sincerely.
You know how much I love you. However, I'm going to say something insulting.
Well, because you said there's so many stories surrounding Odell. No, there aren't. This year there have not been. He has been on his best behavior.
But he's in the news a lot. There are stories about him.
Because he's interesting. Because we find him fascinating. Because he...
Didn't he have a blow-up? Didn't he have an issue on the sideline after one game where he said or he's yelling, "I can't get the ball to save my life," and there's a potential 2-minute drive, and he's way over on the other side.
Hold on.
And now, in the grand scheme of Odell blowups, it's not that bad.
No. Listen,
it's better.
And that is an Odell being caught on a hot mic saying to himself, "I can't get the ball."
But you wouldn't hear a guy like Julio Jones say that.
No, and you'd never
Larry
hear Tom Brady
Fitzgerald
yell at his receivers saying, "You got to get open." And if you did, it's leadership. We all know that's leadership. That's good. And Jason Witten, who everyone loves.
We're talking about a guy with 19 years of consistent track record.
What about Witten? What about Witten when he is screaming for a team? Let me look at the standings real quick. Oh, with the same record, just as underachieving. That's leadership when it's Witten, of course. Because we change the rules for guys depending on how we feel about it.
There's a little to that, Nick. But we can't act like Odell hasn't brought a lot of this on himself. The Watchgate, here's my issue with you. Said that's a small thing or whatever. That shows me your mentality. When you want to wear a watch, $200,000, then what, $2 million watch during the game, that tells me you're too concerned, too focused on being cute and impressing the homeboys or whatever. You should be focused on the game. It's things like that. It's not just a watch. It's what does that say about your focus for the game?
And all last segment, you were rushing to judgment on the Patriots based off their track record, but now we're not supposed to rush to judgment on someone based off their track record. I don't see how that dichotomy can exist.
Because I think this year he has gone out of his way to try to change his reputation by not having those incidents, and now we're saying that doesn't matter.
But do you think everybody's making up the fact that he's saying, "Come get me," or "I want out of Cleveland"? Like, do you think that volume of reports is just made up? People just want to get after Odell?
No, I believe them.
Okay, if winning is everything, it's really about winning, and we all agree that Odell is one of the more talented receivers, if not one of the top 5 most talented receivers in the league. You've coached 2 teams now. Knowing what you know, would you want a guy like Odell on your team?
Look, I had a totally different philosophy on players, and maybe it was too strict from a character perspective because I wanted a certain type of guy. And I really believe when you have high character guys, then average becomes good, good becomes great, and great becomes a Hall of Famer. So I wanted a very particular type of guy. Do I want a player that's going to be consistently creating distractions? No, that's not the space that I'm in. That's not what I learned. That's not what I believe in philosophically. So I would probably shy away from that situation.
What I would say, lastly, in defense of Odell, I would like to hear once, he's now been on 2 teams, a teammate go on the record and say he's a bad guy in the locker room. We don't like him. He was a part of the problem. Haven't heard it. I would like to hear, aside from Tom Coughlin, a coach seem not to like Odell. Shermer was putting his arm around him as much as he could. Gettleman traded him away after saying he wasn't going to. I agree with you, actually, Coach. I don't think you were too strict. I truly don't. And I think, in general, your philosophy is a correct one. But I also think there is a difference between flamboyant and character issue. And as far as do I think they were making it up? No, I think Odell probably at least is considering what it would be like outside of Cleveland. And I don't have a problem with it because I'm certain Cleveland is considering what it would be like without Odell. To me, that's always been a one-way street. Teams can cut, teams can trade, it's business. Players hold out or demand a trade. They're being selfish. I think that street should go both